sunshine. Open up your sleepy eyes for me. Can't have you hiding. I've been waiting all the night. People waiting for the light. Sunshine, sunshine. Wake up, sunshine. Let me feel your warm sunlight on me. Can't have you hiding.
Place des Arts around downtown Montreal, also known as the Quartier des Spectacles, or as they say in English, the Concert Quarter. When you see the stages set up around here in June, it can just mean that all the festivals are going to be starting around here. First, it's going to be the Francophonie, the French Music Festival takes place. After that, it's going to be the Jazz Festival. You'll probably get Just for Laughs around here. Also probably the Montreal International Film Festival. So there's going to be a lot of stuff looking forward to down the road. Anyways, welcome to another edition of the Wandernuki Cheese Cafe. It's been a little while since I did the last episode, which was a pretty extensive one, and I kind of wanted to do a grilling episode, but also make it a bit of a, what I call a wander and grill segment, because I have an idea in mind for a recipe. Couldn't find it this morning at Costco, and now I'm going to be making a journey to see if I can get the stuff. So we're going to jump right on this. Very nice. Still getting set up around here. But of course, because it's Sunday, there's no way that I couldn't have done my usual wander around Saint Laurent to go find a coffee and maybe find some brews to do when I'm doing my grilling. Because my idea in mind is probably going to be hitting up the Jean Talon Market, because I always love that spot. And I'm going to keep talking about it again and again because you got a nice selection around there, nice vibe. So obviously I'm going to be walking my way from downtown up to the Rosemont area. But before I continue any further, I'm going to give you one suggestion. Click that subscribe button below and put your notification bell to on. That way, if I have a new video coming up, it'll be ready for viewing and you'll get a pop-up on your phone. Oh, and of course, give me a thumbs up on this video first and foremost, because the more likes I get on these videos, the more the videos promoted on YouTube in the recommended features. So you're actually helping me a lot with that. Back on my usual stomping ground of Saint Laurent Boulevard. And actually last weekend when I was out and about, I did pass by this pretty neat spot that's worth checking out. If you enjoy vintage clothes, thrift stores, and other stuff, then you can always come to Cafe Eva B. I came here because it was always intriguing for me to come here, but the main draw I find is for the coffee prices, because it's relatively affordable, I have to say. So an espresso over here would cost you $1, and an Americano is about $2. That's amazing because most places, Americanos are going to be reaching about $4 in a lot of coffee shops. The catch is it's one of those zero waste kind of places. So you either need to sit down to drink or you need to bring your own cup for transport. But hey, small price to pay to get discount coffee. So this is something I covered the last episode. Right behind me is Dispatch Cafe. Very nice spot, and like I mentioned back then, one of the things that stood out to me was grabbing a cookie and realizing there was actually cayenne pepper in here, which again is not something I really see very often in desserts. But you know, it is definitely unique and it's definitely worth a try. But I guess I can give you a little reminder. If you want to see that episode again, I'll put a card on the top right corner for you to click on and then revisit it if you have about an hour to kill, because I did cover a lot of ground in that. I am now in front of Larry's, which I was told has a very good beef tartare on the menu. It's like corner of Fairmount and Saint Laurent. I was thinking maybe I should check it out one day because I realize I'm in Mile End, but besides Park Avenue and maybe Saint Laurent, I actually don't know much of the area. Like I've gotten to know it a bit more in the past year, but there's still a lot to explore. So that's one of those stops I think I'm gonna hit up. Actually, I'm starting to think that usually by now on my wanders, I would have already had a coffee, but I never even got one. See if I can correct that very soon because I am gonna need a booster to get my shopping done and then get home. Well, after all this time walking, I had to go get myself an iced Americano. Figured that the sun is up now, it's a lot warmer than when I started my walk, so it's a perfect opportunity for that. And the coffee shop I went to is a familiar one to me, the Café Saint-Henri. I'm kind of familiar with that roaster because there's one within Verdun that I've been to with a friend once. This one though is also familiar because I did visit that almost 2 years ago when I did my walk around here. And actually, I'll put a card in the top right corner once again for you to watch that. Because what I did back then was that I started around the Jean Talon Market also, looked around, and then eventually made my way eastward into Rosemont to kind of look around my neighborhood where I grew up and where my grandmother used to live. So it's pretty fun stuff. I needed a bit of a booster just to see what's going on. I did see a few street musicians around here. Sadly, it wasn't like the past where I was actually noticing that they were playing some Legend of Zelda music from time to time over the years. Like, I think I've heard the Lost Woods, maybe the Hyrule Market, you know, some of those tunes. There's probably other ones I'm forgetting because I wasn't here for all of them. Still, if you're a Legend of Zelda fan, sometimes fun to visit this. So my goal is, once I get this thing done, I'll take a little browse around, eventually try to find what I wanted to grill tonight, which is a steak of calamari. There's one really good fish store around here that has actually been around for decades. I got a really nice piece of turbot last week that I cooked on the a cedar plank. Turned out awesome, so I'm hoping that they have that there. It's not gonna be like Costco where I could get like maybe a few of them for under 20 bucks, but if I can get one or two, then at least I could test it out, and I can just hope that it's gonna be a success. And naturally, I'm gonna have to go to Peluso too. I need some microbrews. My fridge is actually starting to run empty. So that was not as successful as I was hoping it to be. I checked all of the fish stores that are around here, and it turns out that calamari steak is actually a little harder to find than I expected. Everything I found here was whole calamari, calamari rings, and other pieces. The thing is that calamari steak is very specific. It's essentially large pieces of squid that's flattened and tenderized into a bit of a steak. So yeah, I could have got a whole calamari or a tuba calamari, but that would take a lot more work in order to do. So I just got myself a steak instead at one of the butchers that's nearby. It's an onglet, which I don't really do that often because, well, bavette's easy to find in my neighborhood. For an onglet, I would have to come like around here or the specialty place in order to pick it up. Not that I'm complaining though, because any reason to come visit this market again is always welcome. Because like you could probably tell, I love this spot. And I just love exploring Rosemont for that matter too. Grew up here, spent a lot of time, and there's always new things to find out about. So I think what I'm gonna do instead is, I'll save my calamari for another day when I know that Costco actually has it in stock, and then I'll dedicate it to that alone. Right now what I think I gotta do is make my stop at Pelouse. Oh boy, hacked up a hairball for a second. What I think I should do is, should probably make my way to Peluso, grab a few beers, something for tonight, and also something to share with the guys next week, because I am planning to see my Stooges again. It's gonna be nice. Sunday grilling, brewing, that's what it's all about. And yes, just like the last time, I'm thinking Summer Breeze is on my mind. But I'm not gonna play it. I've already used that song before. And as you can plainly see, here I am in my yard, so I've gotten home safe and sound with no bruises whatsoever. I gotta admit, this is also one of those days I feel like I could have stuck around in town a little bit longer, because I enjoy exploring Rosemont these days, what with all the cafes, the bars, so many restaurants around. I feel like I could be there all week, and there's always something else I'm gonna have to discover. Maybe one day I'm gonna have to go back and then do another wander yet again. But for now, I'm just gonna be preparing my steak. So once again, it's gonna be an onglet, which I probably covered before. And I'm gonna show you a different variation of a marinade that I've done in the past. But obviously before I do that, I'm gonna have to get a little brew going on. And in case you're wondering, no, there's no magic that's happening this time. I just have it right in front of me because this is one of those days I just want to chill and not get too rancid for myself. Yep, so it's going to be a bit of a grounded episode, and I am going to finish off with a New England IPA, obviously. I'm kind of thinking I haven't even shown this one on the channel yet, so let's just go for a recap. I got something from the brewer called Les Grands Bois, which is French for the Big Woods, and it's the Monte Carlo New England IPA. So Les Grands Bois is located in Saint Casimir. I'm not too familiar with the city, but I see that, and I almost think about Cashmere, the Led Zeppelin song, or if you're into fashion, you're thinking cashmere sweaters, which are super expensive. But this one, I feel like the first time I discovered the brewer was over at Nick's Bistro back in like February 2019. And I know someone's gonna be watching thinking, how do you remember this shit? Well, it's a pretty simple reason. It was one of those times that I think I'd had beef tartare for the very first meal ever. So that's when I realized this isn't so bad, and it kind of became one of my favorites to get when I'm out and about. That's how I remember it. There was a couple of other ones they had on tap too for Les Grands Bois, but another one I remembered seeing was Fins du Monde and Maudit. Just in case you need a recap, those two beers were the ones that are done by Unibrew and Chambly that actually have some pretty well renowned, and they got a lot of acclaim even within the rest of the world. So it's like that Quebec beer at 9% is considered like one of the best in the category. That's something to be proud of, to actually be winning these kind of competitions. And for Monte Carlo, I'm kind of wondering why they named it that. Because I look at the imagery at the front, and it's like very neon over a dark background. Maybe not Monte Carlo the Chevrolet, nor Monte Carlo in France. Of course, my point of reference for Monte Carlo is the Monte Carlo potatoes, or also known as twice baked potatoes. That's one of the things I love to get at Gibby's whenever I'm there with the guys, because it's very tasty when you have it all mixed together, and it's not something I really do very often. Now, just in case you want, I did actually attempt them a while back. I'm going to put a card in the top right corner for you to watch, so that you get a reminder of how badly that my Monte Carlo potatoes had failed. At least the bavette was good, and I had some other jokes around the yard. So, failure aside, cheers. Here's to Sunday brewing. Very nice. So this one, it definitely looks like a New England IPA, but it doesn't have the same kind of hazy doesn't have the same hazy texture, and it's only like 5.5%. At least I think that's what it says. Yep, 5.5%. So that means it's actually on the lighter side of the New England IPA scale, because I've had most of mine within the 6 to 6.5% range. Some could actually go to 7.5%. When you get to 8% or so, that's when it gets to the double and triple IPA territory, which you don't want to really abuse. It's perfect though. It's nice, just a perfect balance of strength, fruitiness, and hops. That's the way I like my beers. So I'll enjoy this for a little bit, and then we're going to jump right in to the steak preparation. I've had a good run with that brew, still gonna be working on that thing, but what I'm thinking I'm gonna do is start preparing the marinade for my steak. So this one might sound familiar, and most likely it's gonna be something that you probably have a lot of in your pantry, and it's pretty straightforward to do. So first thing you're gonna need is 1 tablespoon and medium-sized mixing bowl so you can put it all together. So it's gonna be a lot of basic stuff. Typically when I'm doing my bavette, I'm always using olive oil for it. In fact, I use olive oil in a lot of my cooking just because it feels like it's one of the best oils on the planet you can get. That's a fact of life. And it's no different with this recipe too. So what I'm gonna need to do is like put around, I would say like maybe a good 1 tablespoon, maybe 1.5 tablespoons of oil in here. Just like so. Then I'm just going to keep that aside. And yes, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep things aside until, just to clear things off so I don't clutter up this table. It's a good thing I have the side table to help me out. So we got the oil. Next thing I'm going to need is red wine. And I did cover this on the last full episode when I was doing that sirloin roast. And it's pretty straightforward. You don't need to use a fancy wine, just get a regular house wine from any store, like a grocery store, and then that's all you're gonna really need. Because when you're cooking this, nobody's gonna taste if this is a Chardonnay. Actually, no, a Chardonnay is a white wine. No one's gonna taste if it's a Chianti versus a Cabernet Sauvignon or a table wine. It's just wine in here, so you can have some grape for marinade. So you can be generous. I'm putting like around 1 tablespoon worth, but it's like a little bit of overflow. Once again, red grapes go good with red meat versus white wine goes good with like fish, seafood, vegetarian dishes. But I'm sure there's exceptions, and I'm sure if there's any wine connoisseurs that are watching this right now, they probably know some good white wines that go well with the meats. So maybe one day I'll give us a little bit of an exploration. A bit of a salt shaking. So I'm gonna say that was around a 1/4 teaspoon. And I think I'll do the equivalent of pepper too, so 1/4 teaspoon of that. Or maybe slightly less, because you don't want to overdo the pepper at times. Next thing here is gonna be maybe some coriander or cilantro. And if this sounds familiar to you, that's because I used cilantro/coriander when I did my bavette during the failed potatoes last year. So it's a pretty similar thing. Coriander and cilantro are all similar. So I'm only gonna put like maybe the equivalent of, I would say 1/2 teaspoon in here. Just enough to give a bit of flavoring. Then lastly, I'm gonna use rosemary too. Rosemary is not something that I use very often in my cooking, like very specific instances, but when I do use it, I make the most of it. And there I put like maybe a similar amount, like maybe, I would say another 1/4 teaspoon worth. And then I'm just gonna blend it all together and then add my next ingredient afterwards. This was gonna be a little bit more time consuming, so we'll be right back. Okay, so that second step that I was talking about was take some time is getting some cloves of garlic all chopped up. I don't want to show it off because you've already seen me do it countless times, but that's the other thing I'm going to be using on this marinade. So what I did was I cut up around 2 cloves of garlic, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be adding this in to the bowl. So half a clove of garlic is going to be all set. There. And I'm sure you're asking, like, why would I only use half it? Well, it's because I put something else together too. Oh, hang on. Olives. Because if it's going to take some time to get some supper done, I need to have a little tapas before I have a supper, especially if I'm having a drink. Because, you know, it's a good memory of Spain, and I keep talking about it, and I'm going to keep sticking to it. Now, my garlic is for my potato. So what I did here was that I took one baked potato, not a baked potato, I took a potato that's like what you use for baking, pre-cooked it in the microwave on the baked potato setting. So if you choose one potato, your cook time is going to be around the 4-minute range. So what this does is it pre-cooks it and then is able to soften it up, so it reduces your cooking time when you're doing grilling. So once you're done with that, I'm just going to take your knife. I'm going to cut this thing in half. And I think what I'm going to do is just slit some holes in the center here. Well, just like so. And then the garlic is going to be added to the potato. So what this is going to do is allow the juices of the garlic to roast and then really penetrate that potato. It's a little trick that I learned from a friend a while back. Well, most of the trick. The garlic was my own personal touch. Next, I'm going to take like the equivalent of 1 teaspoon of fresh oregano, and I'm going to slice up, add it into the garlic. I enjoy fresh oregano. I want to use it now especially because I have a huge plant in my garden, as you probably could see. That thing has grown so massively that it's almost like it's infesting it. And I needed to find good uses for that oregano, and that's why I wanted to put it in here. There, that's good. Oops. I seem to have forgotten something. We'll be right back again. So as luck would have it, I was doing cleanup around here, and then I put away the olive oil without realizing I would have needed to use that once again, so I had a bit of a basement moment. So here's the trick that I keep referring to. Pre-cook your potato, add whatever seasoning you want to the center, and then you can be very liberal and just drench this thing in olive oil. So that way it's going to be warming up pretty well, seasoning up and giving a lot of flavor. And then by doing it this way, once your potato is cooked, all you really need to do is add some salt to the mixture, and then that's fine. So if you want to avoid using like butter or a whole bunch of excess spice, don't even bother. Just pre-cook it with the oil so that you are able to moisten up a lot. Oops, seem to have had a little oil leakage here. Oh well, it's not the end of the world, we're fine. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my steak into the marinade. So onglet, I think I've talked about this before. An onglet is basically like a hanger steak, or at least that's what they call it outside of Quebec. Because Quebec, or I guess in France, they call it onglet. Frankly, I don't even know what it's supposed to imply. But hanger steak is kind of like a bavette or a flap meat, where it's on the underside of the cow. So you're going to be having some grain from the abdominal area, but if it's the way you cut it, it can actually be really tender also. It's one of those you have to cut with the grain as opposed to against the grain. So I have my glove right on. I'm going to open up the package here. And then I'm going to just throw this in and then let it stew in its own juices. There we go. And take note, I'm also getting this thing rotated because you want to make sure it's well coated in everything. So red wine, olive oil, garlic, salt, pepper, coriander, and rosemary. That's all you really need to have a good high quality steak. Okay, I'm actually getting flashbacks too, because this was actually the same kind of steaks I put together when I did my end of summer 2022 vlog. That was a really elaborate one too, like 1 hour of me preparing a steak in the backyard. We'll talk about all the areas of Montreal that I visited over that summer. And you know what? For fun, you can revisit the top right corner too. The Summer Oldie series. Man, that was fun for revisiting some of the old memories, but also kind of a bittersweet time for obvious reasons that I'm not going to get into. And now the steak is here. I'm going to keep that aside because it's almost going to be time to get the grill started. I have a cedar plank in there because last weekend I had done a piece of turbot on the grill like I had mentioned earlier in the episode, and those things are like a one-time use when you're used for cooking, so afterwards it's almost like you gotta junk it. But I figured rather than put that in the garbage, I just burn it so that I could get a little bit of extra flame with there, because it's burned up quite nicely, and I'm hoping that the cedar fumes are going to be getting into the meat too, because that's how wood chips work. You got cherry wood, maple, hickory, and all that. That flavor gets absorbed into the smoke and then into your meat. That's how I could get a maple flavor without using maple syrup. I still got some time before that thing is going to die out by the looks of it, so I have a little bit of time to get my vegetable put together for us. So yes, if you've been following me for a while, you know one of the vegetables I like to do on the grill. Zucchini. I have no idea how they got it this big. Now, who am I kidding? I had one year where one of my zucchinis was around this size, if not a little bit bigger. So it is possible. But for all intents and purposes, this is a mutant one on steroids. And I'm going to show you a quick thing you can do, similar to when you're preparing your eggplant. So first off, cut the ends off. And then I'm going to slice this in half to make it into a bit more bite-sized rations. Ooh, my fire's really going out. So then I'm just going to make these into small slices here. Just like so. There, one. Just like this. And I'm probably going to do the same thing with the rest of my zucchini, but we'll get to that in a second. So much shaking over here. I wonder if this is being caught on camera. Okay, that's one zucchini down. I have another big one I'm going to do later on. So this is actually something that one of my buddies had put together when I was doing a barbecue with him at his place. And I had brought over like some kind of a Greek salad seasoning too. And he was the one that actually showed me about doing these slices on the BBQ, and I thought, yeah, I could probably steal that idea. Almost like another friend who got me really hooked on eggplant on the grill with this little trick. So I guess I'll give you a bit of a spoiler. Once these things are going to be applied to the grill, what I'm going to do is add a dash of this kind of stuff. This is avocado oil. So apparently if you're following keto diets, avocado oil and olive oil are the best ones to use because apparently they have the good fats. Things like peanut oil, sesame oil, canola oil, sunflower oil, those you want to avoid. You can get good flavors from those apparently. I don't use them in my cooking. It's really olive oil and avocado oil, especially for vegetables. But I'm sure that sesame oil I could use on occasion too, along with canola. But most of my stuff is these things. So basically, I'm just gonna take a dab of this, brush it onto each slice of the zucchini, and then apply it to the grill once it's all set to go. And you don't have to let it go for too long. This is gonna take like 5 minutes per side, give or take, depending on how much you want to really char it up on them. But it's really simple to do and very tasty. If you really want, you can just add some salt afterwards and then you're fine. But like a dash of salt, not a huge amount. Speaking of huge amount, there is a lack of huge amount of beer in this glass. And I still got some time before that fire dies out, so let's introduce the next one. So I picked this one up earlier today from Peluso over on Beaubien within Little Italy. I've covered that before on the channel, but I have to highlight them again. I love their selection because they got a whole bunch of stuff that I cannot find at the beer stores close to my house. It's like being a kid in the candy store when I walk in there. So Moulin 7, or Moulin 7, and it's called a Grisette Saison Ouvrier. A Grisette is basically like a French farmhouse ale, which I've talked about a lot. Saison Ouvrier means like workers' saison or workers' season. What's that supposed to mean? Is like, it's worker season instead of rabbit season and duck season? Like, what else could it be? Oh. Ask a stupid question, get a stupid answer. I've actually had this one before and it's pretty good. Saisons are some of my favorite discoveries in the last year, just because they can be very refreshing in the summertime and have a really nice, easygoing flavor. And this one's like 4.9%, which means it's not that much on the strong side. It's like very similar to a lot of saisons I've had in the past. There, nice color, nice aroma. So let's see what this is like on camera. Very refreshing. I love this stuff. And it's an easy one. It's got barley, wheat, rye, hop, and yeast. So it's like all the types of grains fermented together. But I guess it makes sense considering this is a farmhouse ale. You're basically fermenting your beer with whatever you can harvest up in your own farm. Okay, I think that fire is going to be burnt out soon. Okay, so everything is prepared for supper. I wanted to shoot that solid so I could enjoy a bit of a music montage while I'm grilling, because if you've been following me for a while, technically you've already known what kind of steps, procedures, and things to watch out for when you're preparing these things. It's pretty straightforward. But I had to salt this thing again because the potato, once it's all oiled up, it's like I said earlier, you just have to salt it, you're good to go. The zucchini, maybe a little salt to go with the avocado oil, but it's the hanger steak that I'm really dying to try. So I think I did this like a good medium rare based on the color of the juices I got running. And I let this sit for a good few minutes so that way the juices can redistribute all across the meat. So it's time to give us a taste test to see what this is going to be like. And yeah, because I actually don't think I've done a hanger steak on camera before. I prepared it during that last end of summer 2022 montage, so it will be the first time. I bit into some rosemary, which is kind of like a stick. So this is good. This is one of those types of steaks that you got to watch out for, so you cut it with the grain so that you chew against the grain, because that's how you're going to get it really tender. And really good flavor too. So the one thing I'm kind of wondering is, how much of a steak can I have tonight? I'll chew what I can, and if I can't finish the other half of it, then worst case, I'll put it in the fridge. That means I'll have a meal ready to go for tomorrow. Easy going, or easy breezy beautiful cover girl if you're one of those kinds of people. So on that note, precious saison. So on that note, thanks for watching this edition of the Wandering Yuki Cheese Cafe for my Wandering Grill episode. If you like what you see, just be sure to hit that subscribe button below. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoy my wandering, my storytelling, antics, and everything that comes with the channel. And if you have any ideas for future episodes, leave it in the comments section, like an area Montreal should check out, a good cafe, bar, recipe to make at home. Just tell me that, and I'll try to put into the episodes one of these days. Till then, take care, and we'll see you next time. Oh yeah, baked potato. It's really hard to fuck that up. I know I had my heart set on calamari, but you know what? This is still a satisfying end of a week meal.